All right, so for today, it's going to be an exciting class. Today we're going to start painting our barn on a 9x12. I actually have a 12x16 just so that it's bigger. You can see better when I demonstrate. But before we start painting our barn, then I thought I could answer a question that I'm not sure I answered correctly last week, which was about how do you make it very thin? You know, so we can practice this a little bit to make a very thin line with a brush. And also do a little exercise about our colors, especially how we're going to make that gray and how do we make that red that we use on the barn? How do we make those, you know, the different colors that we have to use for this painting? And on the photo, the grass is kind of like a yellow ochre, but we don't have to paint the grass a yellow ochre. It could be a green grass without snow. It could also be, you know, the yellow ochre or like kind of like a hay color grass. All that to say that when painting from a photo, or even painting outside in plein air, but painting from a photo is what we're doing now, you always have the option to change things around. And trying to match the color on the photo is a good exercise to do, but it's not an absolute must. So we have a red barn, but we could decide to paint a gray barn or a brown barn or a white barn. It's up to the painter to use their artist license. So as of today, you officially have an artist license that you can use at any time.
Wow.
Isn't that cool? So to start with, first, do you guys have any questions on your drawings that you prepared? Or do you want to?
I have a question.
Okay.
Because it's in my notes, but I forgot. I just don't know where I put it. The bottom of the roof and the base of that wall, obviously, there's a vanishing point out somewhere.
Yes.
Okay, because they angle in a little.
Mm-hmm.
The top of the roof, that line, is it supposed to be, it's not supposed to be parallel to the bottom of the roof, is it? No, I didn't think so.
And so where does it point to?
The top of the roof?
Yeah.
Vanishing.
Wow.
Say that out loud, Leslie?
Vanishing point?
Yes.
To the right, you mean?
To the sky.
Yes. Let me show you something. This is, you know, something that resembles the barn building that we are painting, that we're going to paint, and we have been drawing. So it's very small on a big piece of paper to show the actual vanishing point.
Okay.
So the vanishing point is right here, the big X.
Right.
And this line here that goes across the barn building is that's
eye level?
The eye level, thank you. Yes, it's the eye level. The vanishing point is always on the eye level. So this line points to the vanishing point. This line here, the bottom of the roof, also points to the vanishing point. And the top of the roof, to answer your question, also points to the vanishing point.
Because my roof, the top of my roof does the opposite. It points up towards the sky.
Right, that's one of the corrections that I had suggested when you sent me your drawing.
I need to fix that. Okay.
Right. And so for a barn building like this, there are actually two vanishing points, one on either side. So there's another one on that side over here, like right here. And it's these walls like this, these lines, this one and this one, these two lines, they point towards the vanishing point on the other side. Oops, we lost Janet.
Oh, Janet.
So now I did a little barn, a little drawing in preparation for painting. So you'll each have, a chance to say one thing that's wrong with my barn. And Janet, maybe we'll start with you.
It's my
Oh.
roof. It's the angle on the top of the roof.
Yeah, what's wrong with it?
It should go down towards the vanishing point.
Yeah,
Diag- Yeah,
yes. So if I were to try to change it, then I would probably do something like this.
correct.
Yeah,
And it would look so much better. Oh, a little bit too much, actually. So if I were to try again. So I'll put it in red. So it'd be more, whoops. Would be more like this. That would be better, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's,
Okay, Pam, do you see anything else that's wrong with this barn building?
The shadow?
Yeah, what about the shadow? That's a good point.
I'm confused as far as where the light is. If it's,
Right, so let's imagine that on this painting, the light comes from the same place as, on all of those drawings we've been doing in this class. So the light comes, it's coming this way.
right, so the shadow should be more to the left behind the
Right.
barn, not to the side.
So, yeah, so this here, so the shadow should be at least in this angle. So this could be correct still. And then it could be like this. So the shadow could be like this. This actually, yeah, the angle of this is probably more like this. So let me try again. I'll just make it a little darker, a little less confusing. So we would probably have something like this. As a shadow.
Because the light is coming on the left, right at, is it the center of the roof? Is coming
Yeah.
down. So if it's coming to the center of the roof, I'm surprised we would see the shadow. I don't know. I don't understand how we get the angle of that shadow. Because I would think it'd be very different than that.
Well, how different? It's certainly not come forward. That's the point.
Right, not come
Yeah.
forward, I would say come back, but more of a maybe a 45-degree angle to this side of the farm building. I mean,
Well, it all depends on the angle of the sun. Well, one thing is sure, it's actually, it cannot come forward like this.
okay,
That's the point I was trying to make.
Yep.
Okay, now, is it this angle a little bit more like this?
that's, I would
More like this, then it all depends on where the sun is.
okay.
All right, so Leslie, you have, now it's your turn. Do you see anything else that's wrong with the barn?
well, the barn on the side with the roof that you've just corrected just doesn't look right.
It doesn't look right. Why, and what would
Well-
you correct?
I would, well, you have to angle down the roof a little bit, down to the side. And then this bottom part of the barn will change a little bit and look more cohesive, I think. You see what I mean? Like
So is it this line you're talking about or this line?
that line.
This one here?
Yeah, you gotta change it along with the line you did on the top.
Yeah, so that it goes more like this.
Yeah,
So that is correct. That's a very good point. This line here. So when you have this angle for the roof, the other part of the roof has to at least be parallel and maybe a little bit more angled. So if I were to correct this, then I would at least make it like this.
Yep.
And now if I were to put my hand here, our barn building is pretty solid by doing those two small adjustments. Now there are other things, like for example, at this point here has got to be in the middle of the wall. And it's a little bit more to this side, see? It's not quite in the middle, the point of the roof. So it's got to be corrected. So it could potentially be corrected by moving it a little bit. So if I were to go like this, and then I'd have to lower my roof. So now this is more in the middle, but now see the height of these two things? It's a little bit too low on this side. See if I were to draw a line here. So then the wall would have to come this way a little bit. You can't really see it. I'm going to use the darker red. So the wall would have to be more like here so that it reads better. And this line here, we didn't talk about this line. It actually needs to go up a little bit.
Right, for the vanishing point.
Right, to go towards the vanishing point. And so now we have much better building.
Yeah.
Now, I also made it small. It could be a little bit bigger, but I did it on my canvas with paint to show you that even though when you have painted it and put the lines in and you realize something's wrong, you can still move them. You can still move the lines. Okay. All right. So this is, now I have my drawing, thanks to you guys. It looks pretty good. And before we start, I wanted to show you the barns that we did, the barn that we did in the watercolor class. This is the barn that we did in the watercolor class.
Beautiful.
The group chose a long barn, and I actually did another little painting of it. This time I put it, I made it smaller and I put it in its environment.
Wow.
With the, with the road and the silo and everything around it. So anyway, I thought I'd share that with you.
The colors are exquisite in that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. You should see what Leslie's doing in that class.
Oh, I bet it's really good.
Yes.
Coming on.
So now I have, okay, so I want to share my screen and show you a few things that I've prepared for you guys. So I have a couple of jokes for you.
I love laughing. The two. That's adorable.
Isn't
I
that
love
cute?
it. Yeah. The doer.
Yeah, so the thinker stays, but the doer goes.
Those.
Ha ha ha.
There's this one here I thought was cute too.
Seagull songs. 50 cents.
So we're at the Museum of Art, and there's an exhibit of, seascapes, and there's a little kitching to get the seagull sounds.
That's cute.
Very cute. All right, now on to serious stuff.
Scary stuff.
I want to show you a demonstration. So after I had done my 3 thumbnails, then I thought, okay, I'm going to do a thumbnail here that will hopefully resemble what I want my painting to be like. And when I look at this one here, I like the colors and output and all, but I find that the barn is a little bit too much in the middle. And you know how when you put a painting, when you build a painting, if you want the composition to be strong, then the center of interest should be in one of the quadrants. So I decided that when I did this one here, I decided to make it a little bit smaller and more in this quadrant, place the thumbnail, I mean the barn in this quadrant. Now I'm trying to measure it. So this is a long video, but let's just move it forward. So here I had started like this, and then I realized that my point had to be there. So then I added my grass, and see how now I realize that the wall on the left is too long. So I just add more of the dark to cover, you know, that part and make it smaller. So those are things you can do. And here I went too high on the red for the roof. So I just used that background color to frame the roof. Then I paint the roof in. Oops. And frame it with, you know, what's around. And now I have a much smaller building that appears to be right here in the one of the quadrant. And that makes it
That's the way to do it.
yeah, more interesting. I'm just gonna fast forward. Oh, when I paint the gray mountain, I paint it upside down.
Wow.
And now it looks good. Now I realized this here. So one thing that I had realized. So I'd realized that, see this here is higher than this one here.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna change this and raise this.
What
Like-
color is that? Lime green?
Yeah, it's kind of a lime green, but it doesn't have a whole lot of yellow in it. It has more blue and white than yellow because it's in the background, so it shouldn't be too warm. Here I'm adjusting my roof and, you know, turning it upside down as I need
Good idea.
with, I'm using a rigger brush to do this. So see how the shadow looks pretty good on here, Pam?
Yeah.
See, that's the demonstration I wanted to show you, Janet. So using a rigger, you can do a
What is
pretty
rigger?
thin line
And yes,
right on top.
Are riggers always the same size?
No, there are wider ones and thinner ones. And
Okay.
I leave here, I want to bring attention. See, the roof overhangs a little bit. That's why it's sticking out. Sometimes it's easier to just turn it sideways, because there's also the white line of the roof there, see?
Yeah.
And have it overhang a little bit. So I go a little extra. And now I have those white lines.
Really nice.
Oh yeah, I put this one too. So
you
now,
make it so easy, Claire.
I
yeah,
know. I mean, I've got a she shed going on here.
so here I was trying to do the red and I had the wrong color. So I decided to erase it, let it dry. So I went on to move to paint other things, like the little bit of
I like the color.
the snow, yeah. And here I was trying to paint the fence, but my grass was such a light green color that the fence wasn't coming out. So instead I decided to make the grass a little darker here so that I could paint the fence on top. And I let the grass dry while I repaint the barn. So now I have more distinctive colors for this barn, which is slightly different from, you know, the colors I had here. Maybe they're a little too dark if I were to.
No, I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
I like it a lot.
With the, especially with the
Much
contrast.
bolder.
It's nice.
And now, yeah, with this rigger brush, I'm putting the shadow under, excuse me, under the roof. And but it's really hard. I mean, when being filmed, you have to be aware that you have to, you know, you have to show it to the camera. It's not always the angle that you want to paint at. Anyway,
Now that's a rigger that's made for acrylics.
well, I use it for my watercolors and I use it for my acrylics. I think it could also use for oils.
Oh, so, okay, because I bought one. You can use it for,
You use it for watercolors?
saying you can use.
She froze. Is she frozen? No.
Yeah, I think she is.
No.
There.
Yes. Now
She
you're
froze.
back.
Okay.
So then I continue. Now that I put the grass darker, see, now I can use my other rigger and paint that little fence. So
So I'm gonna try that with a rigger.
yeah,
Oh,
so
wow.
make it more watery. You have to have a steady hand. And because now the grass is darker behind those lines, then they show better.
Yeah, it's not a rigger.
Yeah. So once you have put these lines, and I'm sorry that we're kind of like at the bottom there. I didn't realize that I was holding it a little low, but anyway. So I put the posts of the fence, and I made the fence longer because now my barn is smaller and more to the left. So it just made the fence a little longer. And the next thing I'm going to do is add a little bit of the shadow of the fence right here underneath. And that will, at the same time, it will thin the bottom line that's a little too thick. Yeah, I painted it too low. Anyway, so you can see now it's a little darker around and it highlights the fence.
What colors did you use for that shadow?
The same color that we use for here. So it's a dark green with a little red in it. Makes
Okay.
it very dark because it's the grass. So it should be green with some red in it. Like it. And now I'm putting the shadowy side on the posts. See? Right here. So I put a little shadowy side on the posts because we know the sun comes from over there. So that's important so the fence reads correctly.
That's nice.
So then now I'm repainting the background and I added my window, which I almost forgot. Now the background trees here, I didn't put any kind of highlights or anything, but that's something that could be done. And in the bigger picture, that's something that we could certainly do. So to paint a window like that, you can paint the black first and then paint around the frame, or you could paint a little rectangle that's completely white, and on top of it, paint the black. You can do it either way.
So Claire, what is the barn red color? I love it.
Yeah, I like that color.
It's our ultramarine. No, not ultramarine. It's our
Alizarin.
alizarin crimson with a little yellow in it. Maybe there's a tinge of blue, but I don't think that I did put any blue in it. I think the only thing that I added this other little fence here. Again, it's with my rigger to make very thin lines.
Okay.
And now I have a slightly lighter color because this little fence kind of have two tones to it. So I've added a little white in that gray that I made. Look how the sky here is not very definite. We're not sure if this is the sky or the mountain. They
Yeah, I
kind of
like that.
It's nice, isn't it?
Yeah,
And see, now I went with, you know, the second gray, and it makes it interesting, this little.
How did you make that specific gray?
Ooh, that's a very good question. So that's part of our next portion of the class. What else did I do here? I'm not sure. Oh, I went over that shadow one more time because I thought it wasn't dark enough. There. Okay. So voila, that's the little demonstration I wanted. Would you like me to re-show any part of this, or shall we move on?
move on, but I love it.
Move on. Okay. So these are the thumbnails that I did. This was the very first one where, see, this wall is even crooked. It goes out to the, you know, I don't know
Yep.
where it's going, but anyway. So my second one, I tried to make the lines straight, and I gave more space here for the little fence because on the first one, it was too much to the right and there was no room for the little fence. And I barely indicated this other little part of the fence. And then I did it in color, but I made it very tall. And this portion, this wall, is supposed to be wider than this wall, but I did the reverse. So when I did the next one, which is this one that you just saw the demonstration of, I made sure that this was working.
So I'm confused. Which wall was supposed to be thicker?
This wall here
Oh, that one. Okay.
is
Yeah.
supposed to be wider
Oh,
than
right.
this wall.
All right.
I don't know if I succeeded here. Let me measure.
Yeah, it looks it.
Yeah, they're pretty equal. So not so bad. All right, and the little fence, see how with the post, it's very important to have this little shadow side of the post.
So
And
good.
that makes them read so much better, three-dimensional. All right, this is part of the tape. Oops. Now, so to do the demonstration, I'm going to use my palette knife because I have one. If you have one, use that. If you don't have one, then use a small brush. All right?
Yep.
So there's a lot of mysterious questions about gray. And we're going to attempt to do a gray. And as I'm doing this, I want you guys to also try to do it on your palette. All right? So let's try to do a very light color gray. And this is how we're going to proceed. We're going to use a lot of white. So a lot of white, using a lot of white. And I'm going to use, to start with, a very teeny little bit of blue. So see how much white I have here?
Yeah.
I'm going to use this much blue with it. That's just a little bit, very little bit. So see how much blue I put? This blue. So I'm going to mix these two. And it gives me this color. Oh, we should have a. Should have one of these, yes. So remember, the acrylic will always dry a little darker than when it's wet. But do you see how on my paper, you can see a difference between the white of the paper and this color that I made, which is a light gray. I'm going to take my brush, a clean brush would be the best, yes, and put a little bit of this on my canvas. So I take this color that I just made, And I put it on my, I'm gonna put it here so you can see it. So this is my gray, my initial gray, first gray that we're making. It almost looks like a lilac color. And now that I put it there, I'm gonna write down the recipe. So I'm gonna say white plus little blue. So now, right now, this is how it looks. And when it's dry, it's gonna look a little bit darker than this. Is it working for you guys?
Yes.
Can for you too?
Yep.
Yay. So do you need a minute to finish this, or you're ready to move on?
Just
Ready to
clean-
move on.
ready to move on.
Okay. So now in this color that we just made, we're gonna add another little bit of blue, the same amount that we had before. So I'm gonna take another little bit of blue like this and add it to this mix that I have here. Now there's less of this mix left. And so therefore it's gonna give me a darker shade by adding a little blue. So now, using a clean brush, I'm gonna take a little bit of this color and put it next to the original one. Just to show the difference. When you put it on the canvas, make sure that it's opaque enough so you can see the color, but it's also not too thick that we can't read the color at all. So I'm gonna put with a little more blue. So put the recipe as it makes sense to you. So if it doesn't make sense to you, then I'm gonna put a little arrow like this. So if it doesn't make sense to you, these words, then use the words that make sense to you when writing the recipe. So when you are ready, we're gonna move on to a new color. Are you ready, Janet?
Yes.
How about you, Pam?
Yep.
And Leslie,
Yeah,
are you sure?
it's blue with a little bit of,
No.
no. See, no memory.
Well, just think about what you did. So we did white with a little
A
blue,
little bit of blue.
the first one. So we started with a lot of white. So it's not blue with a little of something. It's white, a lot of white with a little bit of blue. And then in this second one, we added a little bit more blue.
Okay.
All right. So just to be sure that you guys are following, I'd like to see. All right. So now the challenge is you have this color right here. I hope you still have some on your palette.
Yep.
You're going to try to make this color next to it right here. So starting again with white and adding a little blue, try to match this color.
Ah.
Woo, okay.
I mean,
Sounds good.
it's one thing to make it once, but you got to make it, you got to be able to make it twice. So I'm starting with a lot of white and adding just a teeny bit of blue to start with. I don't want to go too dark. And I mix it up all nicely on my palette. And I can see at this time, it's a little lighter than my next one. If I put it next to it, it's definitely lighter. Or if I were to put it right here, I can see that it's definitely lighter. So remove that. Okay. So I add a little bit more blue, not too much. I don't want to go over. And well, you know that I've had a lot of practice with this, so now I've matched my color. So if I were to using a clean brush and use this color here and put it next to the color that I have on my canvas, they match. Well, the new one is slightly lighter because the new one is still wet and the old one is dried up already. But once it dries, it will be the same. So it's important that you make this new color the exact same as before, because then afterwards, what we're going to do is we're going to add to this mix. So you can see here, they're pretty equal. This is the first one, the first attempt, and this is my second attempt. So what I did here is I added a little teeny little bit of yellow in the mix that I had just made to match my original gray. And I got this beautiful new gray by adding just a little bit, teeny little bit of yellow.
You know, you use the word gray, and for me, these are all, you know, blues, and this one's a light green. I think of gray as black and white. That's it.
Yeah.
Me, this is it's like
So the red of the barn, I use a lot of alizarin crimson and a teeny bit of my yellow. My colors are drying. Teeny bit of my yellow and a teeny bit of my white. I have no more white. And now this one, let's see what it gives us on the canvas. I'll clean my brush. Remove all that gray that's on the brush, or whatever color you call them. Let's see what this, if this could be a good barn color. Could be a very nice barn color.
Yep.
It's very transparent because our colors are very transparent. So let's say I were to add a little bit more yellow to this color. So to see what's going to happen. A little bit more yellow will give me this color. A little warmer color. And then let's see, I add a little white to this. I don't really like this color, but anyway, I'm going to put it there anyway. It's going to give me this color. Almost like a skin color.
Now I'm behind.
So I'm going to put my recipes. Here, put my red plus little yellow. And here I added again a little bit more yellow. And here I added a little white. So for the barn, I think either this color or this color would look nice. This looks a little bit of a washed out color, and I would probably not use it, but I know how to make it because I put my recipes right here. Now that we have done the barn color, we're going to talk about the barn color in the shade.
Okay,
Oh,
So I'm gonna remake this original red that I made, which was the first one. So how did I make this one? I
Red.
mixed it with my alizarin crimson and a little yellow. And I mixed them together. I actually put a little bit more yellow than this. So this is my original color that I made. I realized I forgot to put some white on my palette. That'll help. Okay. So once we have made this color again, so let's say that I decided this is the color that I'm going to paint my barn for in the sun. I'm going to add a little white in it. So this is the barn color in the sun. And just to make sure that I have remade the same color, using my brush, clean brush, I'm going to put it right there. Yeah, pretty close. So I've put a little bit of it right here, and it looks pretty close to what I have here. So now that I have this color made again, I'm going to, so what is the complementary color to red?
yeah, yellow, right? No, red is, red.
Get the wheel.
Blue? No,
oh, complement your red is like Christmas is green.
yeah, green.
Right.
That's a good way to remember. So yes, it's green. So I'm going to make my green by mixing blue and yellow.
Yeah. Oh.
And our blue is very strong, so we need a lot of yellow with a little blue. So just a little blue to make my green.
Okay, so we're making green, right? So we need blue and a little yellow.
Yeah.
No, it's the reverse, a lot of yellow and a little blue. Because the blue is very strong compared to the yellow.
Okay,
Shoot.
So if you go too dark, then you're going to need an awful lot of yellow in order to get your green. More of a green color rather than teal. So now that I've made my green, green is one of the colors that I made. So I'm going to put it right here on my test canvas. So this is my green that I made, and I'm going to put the recipe. So it's probably 2/3
Yeah.
yellow plus 1/3 blue. So I'll put it like this for me. So that's my green.
I'm curious, are you using the primary yellow on that or the CAD yellow?
No, primary yellow.
Because mine came out more like a line, like a really bright.
Well,
Well, it might be because you have a different brand from what I use.
Okay,
But you want to have a nice dark yellow. You don't want to have a lime green. If it's lime green, that means you need to add a little bit more blue.
okay, so let me put lime green on, right what I did, and then add more blue.
Okay.
I'm sure it won't be the first time I do this.
You're going for a darker green.
Yeah, this is, so if I were to take the color wheel, let's see, color wheel right here. And I look at my color wheel. So my green is right here. It's a fairly dark color,
Yeah,
you can tell. And that's the one that's complementary because it's opposite on the color wheel for my red. All right, so now we have our red and we have the green. And so if I were to paint the barn this color in the sun, then to paint the barn in the shadow or in the shade area, I would start with this red and add a little green to it. So I'm gonna go here, start with this red and start with by adding just a little green, just a tiny little bit of green. I don't know if you can see it correctly, just a tiny little bit.
I'm sorry, that's the
This
red
is
that
the
was
barn
in
color.
the sun?
This is the red that we made that matched the original red that we have here.
Okay,
Okay, so if I decide to paint the barn this color to make the barn shadow color, I will start with the same red.
the original red.
This is my red that I want to paint the barn with. Then I would start with this red before I add the green in it. So now I put a little bit of green in it, but it doesn't give me really a difference. So I'm adding a little bit more. This is a small amount of red, so we don't need a whole lot. So trying with this,
Huh.
starting with my clean brush, I'm just gonna take a little bit of it and put it right here next to my red to see if there is a difference.
So you just add a little bit more green, right?
I just add a little green. And when I put it next to my red that is dry, my new red with a little green in it, see it correctly. Anyway, it doesn't make a very big difference. So I'm gonna add a little bit more green in this red here. And I go with a little bit of green at a time. So just a little teeny little bit like this. I don't want to go overboard. So it gives me this. Maybe I could add a little bit more. Now this is pretty good. So I'm going to test this. And starting with a clean brush, I'm going to take this red that I have and put it here. Clean my brush. Next to it, I'm going to put the red in which I put the green and put it
Oh,
here.
do that.
Ooh, cool. So now, if I show you the two colors, one next to the other, they're both wet. So they will both dry a little darker, but you can tell that this color is lighter than this color. So this would be the color in the light. This would be the color in the shadow. Can you tell the difference?
Yep.
I go a little closer. You can easily tell that one is lighter and one is darker. So this color here is this red in which I added this green. And it's probably, the ratio is probably 2/3 red, 1/3 green. So I'm gonna put my recipe right here.
I'm gonna ask you again because you lost me.
Okay.
Is that red that you're using, 2/3 red, was that the original red or was it the second red?
Well, my original red was completely dried up. So the second red that I made was, I tried to match my original one. So whether you use the original one or the second one that you made should be the same.
Right, but the color combination was red with a little yellow.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, with a very little yellow. So this color here is the same as this. or,
Okay.
you know, what I try to reproduce.
Right,
What I did is in this color, I added
the green.
the green in here. So it's
Yeah.
2/3 red, 1/3 green to come up with this.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Not the white one.
Let's talk about greens. So we already have a green here that we have mixed here, which was probably like 2/3 yellow, 1/3 blue. And if we want to do a lime green, then do we need more blue or more yellow in this mix?
More yellow.
Yellow.
Okay, yes. And if we want to do a teal out of this green, more yellow or more blue?
More blue.
Yeah.
Blue?
Yes. Very good. Now, let's say I have a tree that has a part that's in the shadow. How do I make the green for the shadow of the tree?
Darker lime yellow, green.
Would you add any red?
Yes, add the complementary color to the original color to make the shadow part of an object. So using this green, I'm going to put a little bit here, right here next to it. And I'm going to add some of the red that I have. I can use the red that I mixed here. I can just use some of the red for my pile of alizarin crimson here. And starting with just a little bit, teeny little bit of red. See, I just have this little bit of red. Mix it with it. And see what happens. Maybe just a teeny little bit more. Yep, and maybe a little bit more. So it gives me this nice deep color. And now what I'm going to do is clean my brush completely, remove all this red that I had in it, and put a little bit of this green right here on my canvas, the same green that we had before. Now clean my brush completely and use this new color that I just made and put it next to it. And that would be the shadow color of my tree. So if you look here, see how much darker it is?
Yeah.
But it's still kind of like it started with the green. If you find this too brown of a color, then you can add more of the green to it. Like, so if I take more of the green color and I add it into this, so then it creates kind of like a mid-tone. But they mix really well together. But basically, when you have a color like green and you want to do the shadow color of this, add the complementary color like here, and you'll get, like in this case, it's almost like a brown color. Maybe a bit too much red. But it would be a nice complementary, nice color for the shadow of the green. And so now, what do? I put the recipe, I write the recipe right here. So this color here was, I think it was 2/3 green plus 1/3 white, 1/3 red, sorry. So this is for this color right here. Voila.
No. So mine brown.
Starting with this green here, and mine's a little bit, no, this way. This way's better, okay. So starting with the green, we're going to take some of this green, put it aside, and add more yellow. And then we're going to take some of this green, put it aside, and add white and see what happens. So, well, this is right up. This is all
Oh,
right.
that's fast. Mine is too. Shoot.
All right, so I have this green here. So I'm going to add the same amount of yellow to my green. So this much will give probably the same amount. So it's going to be half and half. And look at that, my green is ever so slightly lighter. So I actually have to add 2 times. So I'm going to add another chunk of yellow, like the first one that I added. Mix it in this mix. Now I'm getting a lighter green, which is closer to a lime green. But if I really wanted a lime green, I'd have to take half of this and add another chunk of yellow. And now this is more like a lime green, but it's still very dark. So to make a lime green, starting with the green, I think the recipe is 4 times yellow, 1 time green.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is how much I had to do to get this nice lime green. So if I put it on my test canvas, first completely wash my brush. Oh, wait a minute. Before I do this, I'm gonna, So I take my green and put it right here. It gives me the green, the same green as I have here. Clean my brush completely. I'm going to take this green, this lime green that I made. The recipe was 2 times yellow, 1 time green. Gave me something like this. I'm putting it right next to my green. And then clean my brush. This one right here is where I put 4 times yellow, 1 time green. And put this one right here next to my green. And so now, if I show you to the camera, you can tell how there is a difference between this green and the lime green. It's pretty obvious. But this one here is darker and it's closer in tone to this green. So it would not be sufficient of a difference to call this the lime green. So the recipe, this is the green that I made. The same green as before, so it's the same green as this. 2/3 yellow, 1/3 blue. Now this lime green that I really like is 4 times yellow for 1 time green. This is my recipe that I really like. So I'm gonna write that down. So this is my green. And to remember what recipe I use for my green, I can put a little arrow like this green. And this here, this is 4 times yellow plus 1 time green. So this is my recipe. This one here was 2 times yellow plus 1 time green.
Okay, so green.
So these are my little notes. Now you have to write the notes so you remember what you wrote. And you have to write it in a way that you'll understand what you wrote, afterwards. So these are ways for me to understand, but you have to do your own notes. We have the green and we have the lime green. And what we're going to do now is we're going to experience with these 2 colors. see what happens when we add white to them. I'm gonna take my green. that
Your
I
original
actually-
green,
I'm sorry?
your original green.
Yeah, my original green that I have put here actually for this purpose. And I'm gonna take an equal amount of white and put it in it. It's pretty equal amount. And put it in it and mix it together.
I think you should give a class on using the palette.
What do you mean using the palette?
Well, I tend to not do it right, I don't think. I get it all over the place. You use it from the bottom, right?
The
See, that's
palette?
right. Yeah, you know the palette knife?
Oh, the palette knife.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I guess maybe. But let me continue with this. So
Okay, sorry.
this I came up with this color here. And when I compared this color, I just came up with which is equal part of my green and my white. If I compare this with the lime green that I had made, they're equal in tone, but one is a lot warmer and the other one is a lot cooler. So if I put them on my canvas here, clean my brush first. And this is this is the new color that I just made. And I'm gonna put also the original green that I
We had
used.
some green, which was 2/3 yellow plus 1/3 blue. And how much yellow did we add?
Okay, hold on, I'm gonna finish this and then I'm gonna come back with the recipes, okay?
Yep.
So this is my green that I started with. Then next to it is when I added the white. And underneath here, I'm gonna put the lime green that we made, just to show the difference. Excuse me. So, see here, now this is our green,
Yeah.
2/3 yellow, 1/3 blue, this one. And this here is our lime green that we had made, that's right here. There's a 4 times yellow, 1 time green. This is this. And here is the green plus white. So this is half and half, green and white. Now these two are almost equal in tone, meaning if I were to take a photo and put it in black and white, they would appear to see approximately the same gray. But one is a lot more pasty and cool, whereas the other one is a lot warmer. So if I were to paint a grass, the grass closer to me would have more yellow. And the grass further away would have more of a white like this. So did I answer your question, Pam?
Yep.
To make a dark gray. So I'm gonna start with this green. I'm gonna take half of it because I want to save some, let's say if I want to add some more. And what's a complementary color of green?
Red.
It's red. So let's add a little red to that green. It's becoming, I'm gonna add a little bit more, becoming kind of a brownish color. But let's see what happens if I add a little bit more. Yeah,
Now, what did you add to that, Claire? I'm sorry.
I'm just adding a little red at a time
Onto the green?
onto the green. It's
Okay.
becoming kind of a brownish color. So let me see what happens if I add white to this color. I'm taking just a teeny little bit here, putting it aside just to test. And I'm gonna add white to it. See what happens. Look at that. It's almost like gray, a light gray. If I were to put it on my, see, it's like a beige color almost. See this?
Yeah.
But it's a little bit too beige. So to make it turn more towards a gray color, to this, I'm gonna add a little blue. Ooh, it's almost like a silvery gray.
I might be getting that.
Look at this.
No, mine didn't come out like that.
It's almost like a silvery gray.
As you take that, we add white.
I don't know.
All right, but I'm going back to my green now. And in this green that I added a little red to it, and it gave me sort of a brown, I'm gonna add a little bit of darker blue, or the blue that we have. So I'm gonna add a little bit more blue. It still looks kind of greenish, but it's starting to turn. Now I'm gonna add a little bit more red. Turn towards the gray. So now that I have this color, that looks pretty dark, I'm going to take a little bit of it and see what happens if I add white. I'll put it over here.
Just to back up a bit, when we made that green, how much, this wasn't dry yet, right? How
The
much,
green,
yeah, we had alizarin crimson and the red. Was it just less red than the green? Or,
well, if you're asking the recipe for the green, we did 2/3 yellow, 1/3 blue.
okay. Then we add just a little bit of Elizabeth crimson.
Yeah, so in this color, in this green that I have, I added a teeny little bit of red at a time. And now it's turning into this gray color. I mean, this brown. And I've also added a little bit of my blue. Now I'm taking a tiny little bit of this color that I have to test what's going to happen if I add white to it. Ooh, very beige, very beige.
Brownish, light.
Yes. Now I'm going to add blue to this color,
To the beige?
to the beige.
Wow. Okay.
Maybe a little bit more white. Now it's giving me, it's almost like a silvery, but more of closer to the blue than before. So it's giving me this. And I'd be tempted to add a little bit more red to this mix. Ooh, yeah. Now it's giving me the purple, and I'm going to add more of this color.
What did you do, add red?
I added red and a little bit more of my brown.
Geez, I'm lost.
And now I'm getting this.
Claire. There were 27 there. We're lost.
I'm lost.
Okay, so let's start again. It's
Well,
not
finally got a gray.
Are you getting gray?
I got a gray.
When I added red, it turned pink.
So show me your gray that you have, Leslie. Just one last one. So this time we're going to start by making a purple. So to make purple is blue and red. When making this purple, make sure it doesn't turn magenta, meaning if you put too much of the red, it's going to turn too much of a reddish color and it's not going to work. So now I have my purple. I'm going to show you the purple color that I made.
So it's red and blue.
red and blue.
Is it a 1-to-1 or is it more like,
It's more like 2 times blue, 1 time red. So it
okay,
gives me a nice purple that's closer to indigo than to magenta. See, I'm showing it on the screen.
Sorry, that was mostly blue?
It's 2 times blue, 1
Yeah.
time red.
Okay.
okay, so let's see what happens.
So we're starting with this.
I have to add 2 times blue more, okay, probably have to add more blue.
Okay, this is not our gray yet, so no need to put it on the paper just yet. So are we done with the purple?
Yes.
Okay. So
I just have a question. Mine came out really, I'm trying to figure out really dark. Is that because I added too much blue?
well, on the palette, it's very dark, Pam. If you look at my palette, it's very dark. But when I put it on here and I spread it out, that's when you can see that it's a purple.
Okay, mine is still pretty dark. So should I add more to make it less dark? It's like a black.
To this purple, we're gonna test what kind of color we're getting. So I'm gonna take just a little bit of it, put it aside, and add a little white to it and see what happens. So it
Okay.
gives me nice lilac color. Just to show you. So when I add the white, it gives me a nice lilac color.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I didn't take the whole thing. I just took a little bit of the color and a little white, and it gave me this. Okay, if it's too red, like if it's more of a color like this, if it's too red like this, then you need a little bit more blue. Okay. Now, in my color right here, this is my purple. I'm add just a teeny little bit of yellow. Oh, my yellow is dried up.
To the dark purple.
To the dark purple, to the dark side. Did I say dark side? I meant dark purple. So in this, I don't have a whole lot of yellow here, of purple here. So, but I'm just gonna take a little teeny little bit of yellow like this. See how teeny it is? And I'm gonna mix it in here. Now, taking just a little bit of this, I'm gonna add white to it on the side here to see what happens.
Oh, that's gray.
That's pretty nice.
Yeah, that's great.
So for me, I might need a little bit more yellow, but I'm gonna show you anyway what color I'm getting. So I'm getting this color, and I think I need a little bit more yellow to really make it bright, because it still looks a little bit too purple. But that's okay, because I only put a little bit, so I'm just gonna put another little bit into my mix. And see what happens if I add a little white to this. Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Okay, so you take purple, then you add a little white to the purple, and then you added a little,
No. In the purple,
okay,
I added a teeny little bit of yellow.
okay.
And to test it, I took a little bit of that mix, put it aside, and added white.
Oh, it's real gray.
Yeah, and now I'm getting this.
Wow.
Pretty cool. Pretty cool gray. But I could add a little bit more yellow to the mix to make it a little bit more gray or a little bit less purplish. So you get to, you know, by making these mix over and over and over again, you get to know, to see, I mean, I can see here that this will turn out to be a nice gray, even if it's very dark, but I'm testing it on the side to show you. And it's giving me a very nice gray. Wow, look at this. This is beautiful. So I'm going to put it on my test strip here. And I'm really getting a very nice gray here.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah.
This last one is very nice. So from the purple, I added a little yellow and a little white, and then until I had enough yellow in my purple to make the nice gray. And that's a fairly dark gray. So is Leslie and Pam, are you still breathing?
So
Well,
it's purple.
add a little yellow. You know, if we're